Good evening and welcome to Curling Stadium, Martensville International. It's the final preliminary round draw before the playoffs end. Well, playoff spots still up for grabs. My name is Jason Jones. With me is the 2019 Canadian and World Junior Champion Matt Hall.
Well, thanks for having me once again, Jason.
Matt, it's great to have you. We've got some big matches on the ice, especially on the ladies' side, including on our featured sheet. Jennifer Jones against Clancy Grandy. Clancy Grandy 4-0 going into this final draw. She's assured of a spot in the playoffs. Jen Jones 2-2. She needs to win and she's in. If she loses, she's out.
Absolutely a big matchup here. Obviously a must win for Jennifer Jones, but don't get it twisted. Clancy would love to win this game as well. These two teams have already met each other twice this year, playing last weekend twice in the same event in the summer series in Quebec, and Clancy coming away with both of those wins, a 6-5 win and a 10-3 victory. But not only that, the chance to sort of run the table and put herself atop the field here, and unless UG Gim matches her at 5-0, she would then have hammer throughout the entirety of the playoffs. So a lot on the line here for the Grandy squad as well.
Yeah, Grandy goes 5-0. She'll actually have one of the top two seeds. That means an automatic berth in the semifinals as well, whether she's number one or number two.
And looking at the matchups here for the Clancy Grandy squad, we have lead Sarah Loken, second Lindsay Dubé, third Kayla McMillan, and the skip is Clancy Grandy. On the Jones squad, excuse me, I have to check every time they play to see who's going on. They do have a 5-person squad, but it looks like today we have lead Lauren Leonardtime, second Emily Zacharias, vice Carly Burgess, and the skip is the legendary Jennifer Jones.
The other women's match on the ice, Chelsea Carey against Ingy Gim. Ingy Gim's 4-0 as well, so she can go 5-0 at the top of the standings and get one of the top two seeds direct berth into the semifinals. Chelsea Carey, also the other team at 2-2. If she wins, she's into the playoffs. If she loses, she's also out.
Yes, we have 4 teams so far that are into the playoffs for sure. They are still playing for seeding and figuring out who will get those top 2 buys to the semifinals. But we know for sure that Unji Gim, Clancy Grandy, Sylvana Tiranzoni, and Nancy Martin will be playing in the playoffs tomorrow. And it comes down to Chelsea Carey and Jennifer Jones, and sitting just outside of that is Christy Watling and Danielle Yench. So what we've been able to figure out so far is that Carey and Jones can earn their spot directly into the playoffs with a win. There's no question there. If one of them loses, it seems like Christy Watling will take that loser's place as the 6th seed into the quarterfinals. If both Carey and Jones happen to lose, their cumulative draw averages are not good enough, and it's likely both Christy Watling and Daniela Yench would then find themselves in the playoffs in that case. So 4 teams that are still on the edge, who are either playing for a spot in the playoffs or sitting back at the hotel and cheering for the team that's going to get them into playoffs. Quick look here at the first end. Really not much going on. Looks like both teams are sort of open to getting their feet underneath them. Jennifer the oldest guard up on their first stone. They hit back and forth for a while, and after a rollout by Jennifer's team, I should say, Clancy decides to play the peel, play a wide open end, and go for the blank, it seems.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good strategy for Team Grandy. They've got hammer in the first end. If they blank this one out, they'll have hammer in the second. The even ends, 8 end games here, extra ends if required. Just to build upon that tiebreaker scenario, they do go to the draw to the button averages, don't they, to determine who would get the higher seeding if there is a tied record. And Christy Watling right now in that pole position among 2 and 3 teams. That's why she would advance if one of Jones or Chelsea Carey loses. Carey and Jones have an inferior draw to the button to Christine Walker, and then Daniela Yench, another team at 2 and 3. She's got the next dog partner of those 2 and 3 teams. So she's also looking for both a Carey and Jones loss to get herself in as the number 6 seed.
Absolutely, and usually when you find yourself in the place that Carey and Jones are, where you have one fewer loss but a game in hand, you're not usually in must-win situation, but as the way it works out here with no tiebreaker games, that's where they find themselves. So I'm really excited to see how this game plays out. I think Jennifer's team being at 2 and 2, they're still getting used to each other. A lot of you at home would know this team probably much better as the Mackenzie Zacharias squad, but in the off season, Jennifer stepping away from her previous team, and they made the call and picked up the veteran, and I'm sure they're learning lots from her, but it would be great, I'm sure, to make the playoffs here at their second event of the season. I believe they were in the playoffs last weekend as well, so starting off with 2 qualifications would be a great way to start for this team.
Yeah, it's Jones' team with the Macarias youngsters in front of her. They were in Quebec last weekend, made 2 semifinals. I think they lost out in the semis. Certainly Jennifer Jones, maybe thinking back to that Olympics experience, draw shot challenge was what eliminated her from the playoff race at those Beijing Olympics. It might eliminate her from the playoff race here at this tournament as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's necessarily a correlation there. You would hope, Jen's been around the game for so long, she knows how to run a pregame practice, how to make sure to try give herself the best chance to win that drop to the button. But yeah, once again, finds herself in a similar situation where her record isn't going to be enough on its own. Of course, if she wins this game she's in, she doesn't have to worry about it. But just once again, finding herself in sort of the bottom half of those draw averages, and that's a big difference nowadays. A lot of events are moving away from playing tiebreaker games, so that draw for Hammer is so important. It really is an extra win in your pocket, or an extra half win even, to be able to go by it in your pocket if you have a good draw average.
Well, still an open end right now, exchanging hits, trending towards a blank end, but here's a miss, I think. Team Grandy flashes ahead, and now Jen Jones, she's got the opportunity to maybe get the force, maybe even put up a guard and protect this rock and even try to steal this first end.
Yeah, I'm wondering if something happened with that. That was not a lot of weight. I couldn't tell how hard she threw it out of her hand, but by the time it got down to the overhead, it didn't really look like a lot of weight, so it might have grabbed something early. They didn't really seem too panicked, or they knew that they lost it pretty early on there, so. Either way, it's going to be a chance for Jennifer Jones here to throw another rock into the rings and kind of had the opportunity to force Clancy Grandy out of nowhere here.
Team Jen Jones, they started out with 2 victories. They looked very strong early on, a win over Lorraine Schneider, a second win over Ashley Howard, and she was on her way to being 3-0 against Daniela Yench. She led that game 5-0 at one point, then led it again 8-4, but let it slip away at the end. Just too many little mistakes during the ends. They didn't score. Let Daniela Yench catch up. That brought them to 2-1. They lost to Tirinzoni to bring them to 2-2 and into this juncture where it's a must-win.
And looking at their other loss against Silvana Tirinzoni, that was another game where she had the lead going into the last end. Was only up 1, but ended up giving up a 2 to Silvana in the 8th end to lose that game as well. So very close games. Arguably, probably should have won that game against Yench, but let it slip away and was in a position against Tirinzoni. It's not that far off to think that they could have been 4-0 at this point.
Yeah, certainly they had the opportunity to be 4-0 and book their place in the playoffs. But what I have noticed is in the last 2 games, just some mispositioning of stones, some over curls on hits, crashing on too many guards. That's what's cost them points in the last 2 games. Let's see if they can fix that and clean that up. Obviously, Clancy Grandy, she's had a great tournament so far, 4-0, has been pretty clinical through her wins.
Absolutely, and as you say that mispositioning of stones, we see Jen slip down right onto that rock. I didn't see exactly what the call was. I would assume she was trying to throw a tight guard there, but slips in and freezes to the corner of the blue stone and allows Clancy a simple double here, just a hit on the nose.
Yeah, we went from an opportunity to force for Jen Jones, and now the blank is right on once again. That's a bit of a mistake there, isn't it?
Absolutely, we see sort of 3 fairly open mistakes there in a row. The flash by Clancy on her first one, Jones coming in deep, and it was a little bit tough there for the blank, but definitely had the opportunity with just a nose hit double to at least ensure that she didn't give up the steal, but is a little bit wide out of her hand, gives up the steal.
So Jones steals one in the first as we head to the second.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Second end just underway. Team Jones getting a steal in the first end. Actually, that's the way she started the last 2 games with steals against Yenchen Tirinzoni. She let those slip away. Let's see if she'll get a different result in this match against Clancy Grandy. If you're just joining us, Matt Hall with me. My name is Jason Chang. We'll bring you the action from the ice to your device. There are 2 men's games on the ice. Steve Laycock against Riku Yanagasawa on the men's side. Yannick Schwaller and Cody Hartung, but on the men's side, the playoff picture is much more clear. 5 teams already locked into the playoff spots. They have a 10-team field, so they only get 5 into the playoff. Colton Flash 5-0, like 3-4-1. Schwaller's at 3-1, he's through. Yanagasawa 3-1, he's through. Steve Laycock 3-1, he's through. No one else can get to 3 wins in that field.
Everything is pretty much set over there. There are still some games tonight, however. Let's pull that up.
Some seeding still available. In the men's side, the top 3 seeds get a spot right into the semifinals. 4th and 5th will play, we'll call it a quarterfinal, but it's a 4th game to qualify that 4th team into the semifinal.
Absolutely. We know that Colton Flash already has that top seed, so they will not only that have hammer throughout the entirety of the playoffs, which is a big, obviously, advantage to them.
And playoffs are all day tomorrow. 3 draws, quarterfinals at 9 a.m., 12:30 p.m. This is Sunday, and the championship final men's and women's side 4 p.m. And those are all Saskatchewan time, in the Eastern time zone, at 2 hours.
Looking at this Jennifer Jones team, obviously running with a 5-person team this year. From what I've seen from them, it seems like Jennifer is playing every game. She's always skipping. When Carly is on the ice, it seems like she is always the vice. And the other 3 tend to rotate around. Usually Mackenzie, when she's in, will play second. And the other 2 will switch. Lauren will play lead, and Mackenzie, or Emily, my apologies, will switch back and forth. Not sure if they have any plans to solidify something into more of a 4-person squad in the future. Everything that I've sort of heard through the grapevine seems like they're going to continue this rotation for at least a little while.
And when Jennifer is throwing Mackenzie, Zacharias is typically in the house holding the broom, and that makes some sense as well. She's been a long time skip, so being in the house is quite familiar for her.
Absolutely, and a well-accomplished skip herself. Of course, this team winning the Manitoba Scotties last year and representing Manitoba at the National Scotties Tournament, of parts. And now bringing on Jennifer herself, whose pedigree need not be mentioned, but it's way too long to go over in this broadcast. So they're going to learn a lot from her, and I think it's an excellent addition for them to learn from and improve themselves for the rest of their careers.
Well, I think when a junior team moves up into the women's or the men's ranks, there is a knowledge gap still. There's still an experience gap, that mental toughness, and that's what I think you can learn a lot from a veteran skip like Jennifer Jones. Mackenzie Zacharias, no slouch. She won Manitoba last year. That proves something in itself. Manitoba, tough province, probably the toughest province for right now for the women's team to come out of. But she's, of course, also a world champion in her own right, of course, a world junior champion, the 2020 Canadian World Junior Champion.
Here we see a little bit wide on that hit by the Grandy team. Ends up jamming both blue stones. The one that slipped away to the back 12, maybe they're not so worried about, but that one that stays behind the blue guard in the forefoot, that's the one that's going to be a problem for them moving forward. I'm sure they would have liked to, if they were going to hit it that thing, get it a bit more over the top maybe and move it out into the open, but for the time being, it looks like Jennifer's going to have the opportunity here to sink another one and put Clancy into a little bit of trouble here in the second end.
Speaking of Mackenzie Zacharias, here she is, going for her second stone of this end. Green Jones has an okay setup here right now. Trying to build upon their steal in the last end. Apply a bit more pressure on this Grandy team.
This rock maybe slipping a little bit deep there. Now they're trying to get it out of the way. Does slip just to the back of the 8-foot, so a bit of a missed opportunity here. I think if you will see Clancy try and get rid of that blue guard, and in the meantime also try and get rid of one of the ones in the rings. It's lined up quite well that you can make the double over the top, and your shooter should roll towards your other red stones. It's difficult to tell if you have the ability to roll into the rings, but if you roll over to the other side, it'll get those rocks out of the way, and they'll still have one buried stone behind your corner and a wide open sheet to possibly figure out how to get a score in the second half.
Needs to throw up a bit to get the one off the forefoot. It hits on the high side, leaves it as a corner guard. Jen Jones still sitting first, second, and third in the rings.
Unfortunately, just a little bit of a miss. I'm sure if they weren't going to get the run back, they would have liked to move that shooter a bit further out of the way. Yes, you are probably showing the side of the rock that you want to be seeing now a little bit on the center line, but it just doesn't move out of the way enough, and it gives Jennifer the opportunity to guard it once again. And then it's up to the Clancy Grandy squad to figure out what they're going to do, and they're going to have to make a shot here to leave Clancy with something easy with her last.
As mentioned, Team Grandy, they are 4-0. They've stormed through the first 4 games. Victories against actually Howard, Danielle against Silvana Taranzoni and Maureen Schneider. Now, a little bit of a miscue again for the Jennifer Jones team.
Yeah, just slipping in. It seems like there's been a couple rocks now for the Jones team that have just gone a little bit deeper than they would have liked. That last draw before this one, at the end of the last end, Jennifer slipped in and ended up giving Clancy a pretty easy double with her last, which she ended up missing, of course. But just a couple, just a little close to the heavens here for the Jones side. So I think they'll have to just take a step back, breathe, and really communicate and figure out what the ice is doing here, because eventually you'd have to imagine that Clancy's going to make them pay if they continue to do this.
Makes the hit, rolls it a bit behind the corner guard. I'm not exactly sure what they were trying to do. There were, I guess, a couple of options of what you could do after you hit and roll the shooter.
I think it just undercurled a little bit. I think they would have liked to hit that a little bit thicker, and instead of rolling to the left side of the rock as we look at the overhead. They would have liked to stay more on the right. The way it is right now, because they've rolled a little bit too far, the only real way to access that blue now is with the run back, which is certainly possible, but it just makes it a little bit trickier to negotiate that side there. If they'd stayed maybe on the nose or a little bit angled towards the center line, then it would have been a much easier hit for them later. But as it is, it's going to be a little bit tricky. I didn't exactly see what the call here was for the Jones team. Are they just trying to guard again, or are they trying to freeze down?
The initial call was a freeze. Now a guard isn't bad either.
The thing with the freeze is definitely light is always the tolerance. As long as your line is good, there's a lot of places you can put it. Now they end up making it perfect, which is great for them, but we had a couple options there. If you end up a little bit light, it's still a guard. It's sort of in the way, but where they put it now is a very good spot, and it's very difficult for the Grandy squad to sort of do something with it. Wouldn't be surprised to see them play the run back here. You have a couple options. You can pick the top blue off. If you run it past, you can end up picking just the red rock and getting rid of the blue one in the forefoot. So have a couple options here, but you got to make sure you're close, and you definitely need to make sure that you get something moving in the rings.
Well, we've seen a great crowd here in Martensville. Fitting out a little bit as we get later into the night, but I'm sure the crowds will be packed again tomorrow for Championship Monday. So the run back is called, and you see a couple of options of how you can hit it, but you'd love to jiggle something in the rings. This one is overthrown already. Replace that guard now, Matt?
I think so. I don't really see much else that you want to do. Maybe with Jennifer's last, you have the option of drawing somewhere into the rings to sit to, but you never want to end up just drawing sort of the top of the forefoot and giving them a double for 2. Right now, with the way things are, very difficult to score more than 1 if you even can. I don't really see a way to do that at the moment. So I think just try and replace the guard for the time being. See what Clancy tries to do with her last. She may try and corner freeze that shot stone. If she doesn't make it perfect, then you should have a fairly straightforward way of forcing it.
Yeah, if she puts the guard back now, if Clancy Grandy decides to run it in, it's running in a Jennifer Jones stone, so...
Absolutely. So just one other thing that they need to be careful of. And running in that stone now just causes more issues. You can't jam it because it's their color. You may lose your own color. Just adds another wrinkle to the mix that Clancy will have to think about. I don't think she will go for that, but there's certainly some argument to be said for the shot as well. So we'll see what the Clancy team decides to do. I think they'll probably corner freeze the one in the forefoot. Looks like they're signaling that now. The only issue with that is even if you make it perfect, the way that blue-red combination in the 8-foot is angled, Jennifer can just hit it on the nose, and you'll likely see both reds go. So might be more prudent to maybe try and draw around. It's difficult to say, but looks like they're deciding on the freeze.
It does look like the shot, and as you said before, the chances of Clancy Grandy getting out of the situation are not very good. So if she's thinking she might need to draw on the last stone, playing this freeze now, it's basically the draw, so she might get an idea of her weight and see if she's on cue for the last stone.
Yeah, and she may need it. If she makes this freeze perfect and Jennifer hits the one on the nose, it's possible she could be facing 4 or 5 with her last run, so she'll need her draw weight. So great opportunity here to get a nice practice draw in, really get that feel for draw weight. She may need it on the next one.
She's had excellent draw weight all week so far. They'll be tested here in the second end. Down by 1 against Jen Jones. Keeping on this one. Out of her hand. Not sure they're going to get it towards the forfeit. They're trying hard. And it does come up a little bit short, just in the top 8. Now what do you do if you're Jennifer Jones? Can you just guard the draw port and get the force that way?
That's what I was looking at. That red-blue-red combination looks quite enticing because obviously if you hit that red on the nose, the way they're angled, you can get both reds to go and probably sit 4, maybe 5 if you hit it perfectly. But the problem with that shot is it just leaves the one side of the sheet relatively open for Clancy's draw. So it looks flashy because you'll set a number of rocks, but it doesn't really do much to make Clancy's shot any harder, except for just the added pressure of what she's throwing against. So I think it would be much more prudent if you guard up the hole. Yes, you're only sitting 1, but it's very difficult to find a way for Clancy to score. You can't really hit that red on the nose. You don't really have access to the red that's closer to the forefoot that you can somehow pick over to score. So if you hit the red on the nose, which it looks like they might be looking at now, yes, you sit 4, but much less likely that you steal. If you do steal, it'll probably be pretty big, but if it was me, I think I'd play the guard and try to relatively guarantee almost a steal of 1.
Yeah, and they're going to have a bit longer of a discussion with the rest of the team. And the scoreboard might dictate what you do here. I think, Matt, I'm leaning towards what you're saying. You are already up by 1. If you steal another one, you're up by 2. And you've in theory got hammers in the even ends as well. If you were desperate to score multiples or steal multiples because you're down by 3 or 4, then that hit becomes a much more enticing option because then you can get 1 miss and pick up a bunch to catch up.
I'm just trying to think it through. If you end up hitting that on the nose, sure, you're sitting 4, but that's a shot that Clancy makes maybe 90% of the time. So trying to avoid getting too mathematical here, but your expected number of points that you're going to score in that scenario, I think, is still lower than if you guard and Clancy has a very difficult shot to score, then I think you expect to score that 1 steal a lot more often in that scenario.
Yeah, and Clancy did just play that draw. She just came up a little bit short, so they know how much they need to add on in terms of the weight, another 4 feet or so. I think they have decided on just guarding this draw based on where they put the broom. Overcrowing on them a little bit.
Absolutely. You can see on the overhead logo, this is going to stop on the center line, pretty much right between the 1 and the 6 in the original 16 logo. You would have liked to see that on the 6, not touching the center line, or possibly even maybe a little bit more to the right of that. If you think about the draw path, especially with how much curl we've been seeing this week, that rock really isn't in the way. If Clancy wrecks on that guard, then she's probably already missing the draw regardless. So it really doesn't do much to get in her way. You would have liked that to curl even like 2 feet less. It forces Clancy into a much different path for the draw. So unfortunately, just a bit of a missed opportunity for Jen. And with the final rock here in the second end, it'll be Clancy Grandy with a draw the forefoot for a single point.
Opportunity to tie things up here. She is facing 1. Very similar draw to the one she just threw. She has more weight than the last one for sure, but it is hanging out a little bit. She might be on that outside guard, in fact. She is, so it is a steal of 1 more for Team Jones. And they lead 2-0 after 2 ends of play.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
Welcome back to Martensville. We're in the third end. Team Jones, consecutive steals of one to lead 2-0 over Clancy Grandy. It's great to have you, Matt Hall, world champion yourself, joining the broadcast, the 2019 Canadian and World Junior Champion with Team Tyler Tardy.
Well, it's great to be here, and I've enjoyed. Of course, when I was asked by Jerry if I wanted to come on, I said absolutely. I'm basically sitting here at home watching the games anyway, so why not have the chance to come on and talk about it? And just before we came back from the break there, we saw a hog rock by the Jones team coming out well short. So not sure if that picked or just got caught in a funny spot there, but free chance for Clancy now to throw up the corner guard, and maybe she could get something brewing here in the third end to get herself back into it.
Matt, one of the great things about having you in the broadcast is you're a big math nut, and you love your statistics and curling statistics. You've been doing that for a long, long time.
Absolutely. Just obviously I use it. I have a background in math, a degree with it, but always also had an interest in curling, so anytime I can find some way to fuse the two. I remember in high school doing statistical projects on curling and different nerdy stuff like that, so it's always fun to now watch games and sort of have that in mind and see what's going on.
Well, we are in the third end now. Team Jones leading 2-0 over Clancy Grandy. Clancy plays a corner guard. They're going to try to make use of it now, trailing by 2.
We're just getting some bit of a conversation, or a bit of breaking news, I guess, if you want to tell it, from our producer, Jerry. It appears as though the draw to the button numbers were misreported in one of the draws. We're not sure which, but it has been rectified and the teams have been talked to and notified. But what concerns these games specifically, what we said before was that Christy Watling would be the first one in if Jones or excuse me, I can't remember what the other team was.
Chelsea Carey,
right. If Chelsea Carey or Jones were to lose, we said Christy Watling would be the first one to take a place. They have actually switched spots now with Danielle Jentsch. So in fact, if one of those teams lose, it will be Danielle Jentsch moving into the playoffs. And if both Chelsea Carey and Jennifer Jones lose, then Christy Watling will still take that second spot. So still more or less the same situation, but just that order of who's going to take that place has flipped.
So for Christy Watling fans and those Manitobans, you need both Carey and Jones to lose for Christy Watling to make it in.
Absolutely, and Jennifer obviously off to a good spot here in this game, good start in this game, but don't count Clancy out. She has been having a fantastic season so far. Now this is only, of course, the second event, but so far off to an 8-2 record to start the season. They went 4-2 last weekend in the Summer Series in Quebec, losing only to Team Holly Duncan out of Ontario and Silvana Tiranzoni, who they lost to in the championship final, but came back to beat them by one earlier this weekend. So they're off to a very good roll. And as mentioned earlier, they beat Jennifer Jones twice last weekend as well. So don't count them out. There's still plenty of game to play, and we'll be here to broadcast it to you right until the final stone.
And just a quick update on that other women's game on the ice, Chelsea Carey against Unji Kim. Unji Kim, of course, already locked into the playoffs, but can pick up one of the top 2 seeds with a victory. Unji is up 2-0 over Chelsea Carey, so certainly Danielle again keeping a close eye on that game. And of course, she can, whether she's in her car or at her hotel, she can pick up that Curling Stadium stream. Go to curlingzone.com. You can also watch all 4 games live, every single draw, including into the championship draw tomorrow.
So coming back to the third end here, it looks like Clancy took the opportunity to get the corner guard up and tried to sink around it. Didn't quite get buried, so Jennifer was able to hit it, and they've just been trading removals back and forth here. It feels like whoever's going to make that hit and roll behind their own color will be in control of this end.
Rolls a bit too far. Flips to the back of the 8.
Absolutely. I think you'll continue to see them just trading hits here. Clancy is waiting for the opportunity to make a nice hit and roll behind one of the guards, or if Jennifer Jones, obviously, if she happens to roll out, Clancy can play the draw around the corner, but she doesn't even need to roll out. She's sort of just waiting for the Jones team to have a bit of a half shot. Say on this one, if they were to roll out into the 12-foot, and Clancy could draw around the corner and be shot, then you might see her take the opportunity then, especially down 2.
Bit of curl, gets it to nose. Well, and it sounds like she thinks this is a good enough opportunity to go around the guard. With that rock being in the full 8, you can get this into the top 4 and be shot stone behind the center.
Absolutely. I wasn't 100% sure if they'd make this play. I know you are down 2, but drawing around Jennifer's color presents itself its own opportunities. That is a fairly tight guard, so it wouldn't be the most difficult run back. Of course, this early in the season, how often that's made is a bit of a question mark. So if you can put this in a good spot, you can still set something up well. And if Jennifer ever misses the run back, then you can hit the open rock or go around the corner and possibly set up your 2 that way.
Matt, you mean my stats guru that I have on the broadcast doesn't know how often Jen Jones' team is going to make that run back?
I wouldn't want to try and figure that one out here in September. You ask me in February, I'll give you a much higher percentage. But right now, you never really know.
All right, I'll let you off the hook this early in the season.
Quite get enough curl there. It looks like Jennifer's going to take on the hack weight pick.
Yeah, with the ice she's playing a softer weight sort of hit.
These can always be a little bit tricky, as we've already mentioned how much curl we've seen this week, and it is curling very well, but all the curl is late. So when you throw that little bit of extra weight, it tends to run very straight on you. And if you are a little bit heavy on these hits, they have a tendency to float out wide for too long.
In the recent 2 games, what I've noticed is the Jones team has overcurled on these types of shots. That one just gets by the guard, a little bit tight for comfort, I think, near the end, but they make it.
Yes, and that was an excellent weight choice. So it could just be that they're still getting used to each other. This is only their second event of the year, so Jen might not be 100% sure on exactly where to put the room down for these girls, but I've all the confidence that they're going to figure that out, and that was the perfect kind of weight that you want to throw for that shot. So if they can consistently keep the weight to exactly what they want, it's going to make it a lot easier on Jen to figure out where that broom needs to come down. Here it looks like they're debating what they might be able to do here. With that rock staying there, looks like that they can see just enough space between it and the guard that they're going to try and remove it and roll behind the guard. One of the good things about that is if you do hit this just slightly on the center line side, it's possible that you jam the blue, but it could spin into the 4-foot behind your own rock. If you hit it perfectly, you might be able to sit shot stone with another blue in the back of the rings. That could be a jam opportunity if Jones tries to remove it later, although this one has a lot of curling to do.
It's struggling to even hit the backstone. It will hit the backstone. Fortunately, it gets one of them under the but leaves the more dangerous stone in play. That's the rock on the top side of the 4.
Absolutely. You could see there that was a lot more weight than the Jones team threw when they were playing their hit, and it just got it out a little bit wide, and it never had a chance to come back. And that's kind of what we've been seeing. That difference between hack and board can make a big difference in where that broom needs to come down. So in order to execute well on this ice, you need to have your weight control down to a dime.
What is Jennifer doing here? Trying to put one into the top of the rings, maybe top 8, create we'll call it that Christmas tree pattern?
Absolutely. I think best case scenario here, you could probably get away with showing about 1/3 of a rock and even biting the 4-foot. If you do that, they won't be able to reasonably make a double. And if you show a piece, what's good about that is if Clancy ever tries to play the in-turn draw on the other side of the sheet and try to sink around your rocks, then you have an opportunity to hit your own and slash it into theirs to remove it. So I don't think they want to necessarily go dead buried here, because it may leave Clancy the opportunity to hit and roll behind them. But just leave it showing about a half rock or 1/3 of a rock. Top 8, if you bite top 4, that's perfect.
2 steals to open the game for Team Jennifer Jones. Another opportunity to put pressure on Team Clancy Grandy. Jennifer Jones, her first rock here in the 3rd end. Trying to get to the top 8. You see where Mackenzie Zacharias' broom is. That's where they want it to land. It comes up a bit, but maybe a bit of an overcurl too at the end. You can see that big finish as that rock comes to a stop. The backstone is completely open. I'm not sure you can get an inside roll though. Maybe if you play it quiet, you can get a little bit to the inside.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking about. I think it probably just stopped in time. That playing that same out turn, little tap and roll behind is certainly there, although very difficult. Looks like they're taking a look at whether or not to take that on. You do still have the opportunity to play the in-turn draw, although you have to be careful to not slip behind the tee line, that Jones could slash your into yours and send you that. But I think they do have the opportunity to try and get to the inside, hit and roll in off that Jones Stone side 4. And if he ever knows it, you're at least giving yourself more room to score with your last one.
Yeah, I think the thing you have to be very careful about is overcurling and just clipping one of those top blue stones. Because if you just clip one of them, it's going to push it over to the left side and then take away that in-turn clockwise draw. Jen can guard the shot stone and be set up again for that steal.
Absolutely, and that's sort of what we say. Once you start getting up to the competitive level, just we call that tolerance, and always thinking about if you're not going to make the shot exactly the way you're going to, usually there's some way that's better than another. So generally coming up a little bit light on a draw is generally better than deep, and here definitely want to be maybe a bit on the high side if you're going to miss and not take that guard into your way.
Yeah, if you can hit it on even just the high side and stick around, you're going to force Jennifer Jones to make a play on this, and you'll always have a shot to score. You might still... Well, you won't get the blank in this case because Jones does have a second rocket in the house, but if that blue stone weren't in the house, you could still have a chance for the blank, but certainly you'll have an in-turn draw to the button still, no matter what Jen does here.
Absolutely, and I think Jen will be happy to let her throw that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a draw on that side of the sheet yet, but I'm sure there's been enough action that the ice has been worn in. There won't be any funny spots there, but always nice to, if you have the option to throw a draw that you've thrown before. So we're watching here Jennifer's last stone in the
last
third
stone
end.
for Jen Jones in the third end. We did see Clancy miss both her draws in the last end. If Jen hits and sticks, I wonder if Clancy will try to hit. Now, with that rolling to the side, I'm pretty sure Clancy's going to throw the draw to the 8-foot.
Absolutely. Even with those two misses last end, she's still, I think her weight was fine. In the first one, she did come up, with her first draw, she did come up a little bit light, but still hit the 8-foot, and it was more a line issue with her second shot last end. I think if she didn't clip that guard, her weight was probably going to be okay. So I think the confidence is there. Just needs to hit 8-foot here, although with the broom where it is, it's difficult to say. I guess
not
that
as
broom could be the
confident
same.
maybe not as confident as we think she might be here. It looked like she was motioning for the hit, so maybe at the back of her mind, thinking about the last end and the draws didn't work out. We'll see once she slides out of the hack how much speed she's coming out of, but she looked like she was indicating a hidden roll in.
We'll see here, either way, final rock in the third end for Clancy Grandy.
And that looks like hit weight to me. Needs to roll into the 8-foot. She might get it if she just noses it as well. It's good close. I think that's good enough for a single point. Yes, it is Team Grandy with the hit and stick for 1. They trail 2-1 after 3 ends of play.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Fourth end about to get underway. Team Grandy right down on the board with the third. Jen Jones leading the match 2-1. Once again, Team Jones needs to win to get into the playoffs. So loss means they are out. Same situation for the other men's games. Chelsea Carey playing against Indy Gim. Team Carey, they also need a win to get in. A loss and they're out. Indy Gim already guaranteed a spot into the playoffs, as is Clancy Grandy on this sheet.
And as we were talking about before we went to break there, a little bit of a surprise by Clancy to play that hit, especially out so wide. I know you play the hit, you're never really giving up a steal 2 that way, but being down 2 and You had the opportunity to play a pretty easy draw. I don't recall anybody throwing a hit out that wide this game, so it's still a little bit of a guess. Now, that being said, they obviously executed it very well, made the shot and got their one, but maybe an indication that Clancy may not be all that comfortable with her draw weight yet so far this game.
We're having a quick scan over on the men's sheets. Steve Laycock leading Yanagisawa of Japan 2-1. Waller leading Cody Hartung 2-0. The playoff picture, as mentioned earlier in the broadcast, already set in terms of which teams are making it on the men's side, but Steve Laycock and Yanagisawa and Yannick Schwaller all jockeying position. They're all sitting at 3-1 and they're on the ice today, so certainly wins will help them in the standings and potentially a bye into that semifinal.
And on the men's side, you have to imagine that, well, we know for sure that one of those semifinal spots is already taken by Colton Flash, coming through with an undefeated record. Definitely the opportunity here with Laycock playing Yanagisawa. One of those teams is going to drop to 2 losses, and Yannick Schwaller could drop down with them. But just with a quick look here, I believe Mike McEwen probably already has one of the other semifinal spots locked up. So it's really a fight between Yannick Schwaller, Riku Yanagisawa, and Steve Laycock for that final semifinal berth, and then the other 2 of those teams will play in a quarterfinal tomorrow morning.
Yeah, Mike McEwen, they've got a very good shootout score, so they're likely to hang on even if there's a multi-way tie at 4-1. They're likely to be higher ranked than the other teams at 4-1. Well, the center is getting a little bit cluttered up here. Clancy Grandy, no surprise, they played a center guard on their first. Jones tried to come around, came just to the top 12, and Grandy's gone around to the top 8.
Jones now trying to put a good freeze down on this redstone, give them something to work with later, although it comes up a little light, but it is enough to bounce off that blue rock at the top of the 12 and roll to a spot that they can still use later.
Yeah, positioned right onto the redstone at shot stone right now, so a good way to not quite make the shot. The sweepers did a good job to get it as close as they did. They swept it all the way down.
Of course, Clancy Grandy is the new skip on this squad. The other 3 players, Kayla, Lindsay, and Sarah, did play out of BC last year, actually losing the provincial Scotties final to Marianne Arsenault. So another very young squad with high aspirations, just 1 win away from the big show last year and looking to improve with the new skip this year, off to a great start and hopefully trying to win that 1 more game this season.
And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard that Marianne Arsenault is retired from the competitive ladies circuit this year. Is that correct?
I believe I've heard the same thing. I can't necessarily confirm off the top of my head, but as I recall, I've heard the same sort of word. I'm not sure. I believe she's played seniors before in the past, so she may stick to that. But I've sort of recall hearing the same thing, that she has sort of stepped away. I believe possibly that whole team might have sort of stepped back from the competitive side of things. So BC is one of those provinces who their champion will likely not be participating this year. So it's an open opportunity for someone to break through and really establish themselves as the new champion of British Columbia.
Of course, Marianne Arsenault won all those Scotties with Jen Jones out of Nova Scotia and had a lot of success as well as a skip out of Nova Scotia, played in many more Scotties as a skip, and then moving out to BC, actually during the pandemic, I believe, or just before the pandemic. then teaming up with the old squad. The lead second and third are from the old Kelly Scott rink, kind of a Legends team, and winning the BC title last year, making another trip to the Scotties.
Absolutely, and you see Jennifer wisely walking up and recognizing that those two sort of center guards were not helping her. Of course, those blue rocks are great for her lined up onto the red stone, probably in either direction, but with those red guards in the way, she wouldn't get the opportunity to use them. So gets rid of them. I think we'll probably see Clancy continue to guard these rocks, possibly for one or two more shots. Eventually, you may see her try and sink another stone around or possibly make a play on those blue rocks, but being down one, I wouldn't be surprised to see her attempt to try and sink one later on in the end, although this guard may be slipping a little bit deep. The opportunity now for Jones to play a bit of a run back here and get both Reds moving.
Yeah, the 2-1 lead to simplify this end. The front is a bit congested. Mackenzie Zacharias. Throwing the second stone, but holding the broom when Jen Jones is throwing. Now, Matt, when you teamed up with Tyler Tardy, if I recalled, you were a skip before that, and you also dropped down to throwing second stones. Is that correct?
Yeah, so for a number of years, when I went to my first Canadian juniors, or even before that, I had skipped pretty much all through my Bantams or U18 career. And when I first made the step up to juniors, I ended up moving down to second. I played with Doug Key that year. We ended up winning the Ontario Juniors and going to the Canadians. After that, I sort of moved back to skipping for a number of years before I finally sort of put out a call to Tyler and figured out what he was doing the next year. He had a spot available, so I moved back down to second once again that year. Yes.
And from your experience of having skipped most of your career and then playing second, what are some of the takeaways, or how do you make yourself successful going from skip to second, and from someone who's almost a leader on the team to someone who's actually supporting the skip and the rest of the team?
I think a lot of it just comes down to buying into the position that you find yourself in. I mean, it's basically a completely different role. Not only in the sense of what shots you have to play, so you have to put a lot of time on the ice and adapt to sort of the new skill set that you need to have to be a successful second, but obviously as a teammate too, you need to come to some kind of an agreement how you guys are going to handle different situations. So for me, obviously, with all those years and experience skipping myself out of Ontario, now Tyler was already a well-established skip, but I think what worked out really well with us that year is he was always open to sort of hearing some input from me, and I needed to know when to sort of step away and allow him to sort of go off and take control, and just finding that balance, that sort of team dynamic, and really buying into it is all you need. I think, especially with players at this level, they're all skilled enough to succeed at most positions, as long as they're willing to buy into it and put the time into work on that skill set and figure out how you're going to make it work as a team.
So how much numbers and stats did you bring onto that team? Was Tyler using the stats already, or did he up his game by bringing you on?
You know, that's one of the things, like, Tyler was already sort of on board with some of the new statistics and stuff that we see a lot more often nowadays. So we could talk in those kinds of numbers, and sometimes I had to know when to sort of not become so analytical and just sort of, if he had the feel, let him run away with things. And, you know, he's an incredible player, and when he's on. You don't really need to sort of inject yourself all that much. So it was an incredible experience. It was a lot of work, and at the end of the day, we were quite successful. We won the World Championships that year, but it was a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of time spent off the ice trying to figure out how we were going to work those dynamics out as a team.
Well, I was on the call last night with Matt Sussman. We learned a lot about math, geometry in particular, learning about the different shapes you can make with the rocks. Talk about rhombuses and trapezoids and parallelograms. I saw some triangles. You promised me we were going to change the humanities today, but now I get paired up with you, Matt Cullen. We're still on math. Statistics this time and probability.
I'm so sorry to let you down, Jason. I'll try to keep the math to a minimum today. I don't want to overload you.
Well, Team Jones right now, I think they're sitting shots still in the top of the 12 and an opportunity to sit 2 now, drawing to a freeze on that back stone.
Absolutely, an excellent placement with that freeze too. On a little bit of an angle, so there's really no double available to the Grandy squad. Looks like they are talking about possibly, I was wondering if they were going to go for this, drawing around that blue stone, basically treating that blue stone in the top 12 as a guard. Obviously, the pros to it is there is still plenty of space. You can always sort of go back 4, back 8 with these shots and leave it as a very difficult run back for Jennifer. Of course, one of the maybe cons to it is even if you make it, or if you end up coming up top button and Jennifer makes that run back and sticks it, now she's sitting 3. So definitely the opportunity. You could have walked up and hit that rock at the top of the 12, but with how good that freeze is, you're probably not ever going to get the chance at a double. So really by hitting that, you're almost conceding the 2 in some ways. So playing this now, hopefully maybe they can get a little bit of a miss out of Jennifer and possibly put a second rock in there later.
So certainly a bit of an aggressive play here, but they are down by 1. And an opportunity to maybe get a fourth out of this situation because, as you said, the 2 is very much on for the Jones, trying to sweep it for some points. It's going to be mostly open. Well, they actually do a pretty good job. They do get it half buried in the back of the 8, but there's a lot of room to get by and make this hit.
And that's a little bit of a surprise. I haven't been keeping track of exactly what sheets I've been watching each draw, but for most of the weekend, I would have thought that rock would have been pretty close to getting fully buried. We've been seeing some really large swings, especially late in those draws. That one just sort of not getting that last minute dig and working its way around, but as you said, still a very good position, puts the pressure on Jennifer here, but definitely the opportunity was there to make this a little bit tougher on her.
And you'd like to probably roll away from the center line here?
Absolutely. You don't want to stick right behind it. If you end up behind that blue stone, Clancy's just going to fall you down and probably make a better freeze. You'd like to obviously stick around, but if you can roll away 1 or 2 rocks, that's great, although this does not look very
curling.
close.
Chip the blue one over, roll in. Well, the good news is she's opened up the back stone completely. The bad news is Grandy is sitting 1 and they're going to try to sit 2 and force you in this end. That's a...
Are they sitting 1?
I thought maybe they were, but maybe they're not. Maybe blue is closer on that left side. So, okay, it's not terrible for Jen Jones. She did manage to push it up behind the corners to be shot stone.
Yeah, obviously still a missed opportunity. What surprised me there was the weight. That seemed pretty light, that she chunked a pretty good piece of that guard and still only pushed it to the tee line. So likely was just a little bit lighter than she was hoping for. Still the opportunity though here for Clancy. That blue sort of slipping just to the back of the tee line. If Clancy can position a really nice freeze here, it'll take away all opportunities for a multiple score for Jen.
The positioning is very key on this shot. Obviously, you need to be in the rings because if you're not in the rings at all, it'll be a hit for 4, I think.
So final stone here by Clancy. Pressure in the pressure cooker a little bit. Needs to put this stone on the corner of the blue rock to cut down the chance for a multiple score. Really needing to go early. This looks like it's really curling. It's going to come close to that corner guard.
Really good sweeping. They've got it by. The weight looks pretty good too, actually. Maybe it'll bounce off a little bit, but that's pretty darn good, Matt.
Absolutely.
Might have saved the end.
A little bit of a bounce, but I don't think quite enough that Jen can do anything with it. I don't really see much else other than just the draw to the forefoot for a single point. So pressure was on, but Clancy Grandy sort of, you'd hate to say a game saver this early, but you definitely don't want to go down 4-1 going into the back half of this game against a very strong hitting team out of Manitoba.
Just going back to that first stone that Jones threw, you said, maybe she threw a little bit too little weight. Maybe try to get too cute with it, because she could have thrown a little bit more weight at it, make sure she just hit it out. Even if you hit it out, you're still sitting two. You put the pressure back on Grandy to make that draw.
Definitely. She was a little bit light, but she wasn't that far off of the weight you probably need to make sure that you stick around on that hit. Yeah, you could have thrown a couple feet more, but you risk rolling out in that case, which is probably still okay. You'd still have a decent chance for two, but unfortunately got away with her. This one, though, looking a lot closer. The sweepers don't seem to mind it. And it looks like it will just stop in time in the back of the forefoot. So a score of 1 after an excellent freeze by Clancy Grandy to save the end from a multiple score. Jennifer Jones leads 3-1 going into the back half of this game.
SaskTel Be Kind Online wants to stop cyberbullying. Want in on the action? We award up to $1,000 for youth initiatives that help spread kindness and prevent bullying. What great idea do you have to help stop bullying? SaskTel can help. Go to BeKindOnline.com and apply for a grant today. Together, we can make a difference.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Welcome back to Curling Stadium, Martensville. If you're just joining us, my name is Jason Chang. With me, Canadian and World Junior Champion from 2019, Matt Hall. Jones leading 3-1 over Clancy Grandy. Had a big opportunity there to put multiple points on the board. Jen Jones, a late mistake, and then a clutch freeze by Clancy neutralized the situation. So it is 3-1 heading into the fifth end. We're keeping an eye out on that other game, Chelsea Carey, Unjay Kim. Chelsea Carey also needing a win to stay alive and make the playoffs. 2-1. Just finishing up the fourth end over there.
Absolutely, and that's what it really comes down to at this top level. It doesn't take much to let something slip away. Other teams are so good that when you get those opportunities for a multiple score, it's really important that you capitalize on as many of them as you can. And unfortunately, just one slight miscue by Jennifer Jones, and Clancy made her pay and got her fourth. So now it'll be up to Clancy to see if she can generate a 2 here and get this game tied up to start the back half. Looking over at the men's side, Yannick Schwaller with a 2-0 lead over Cody Hartung in the fifth end. And still waiting on a Bit of an update from the Laycock game, but last that we saw, Riku Yanagasawa with a 3-2 lead over Steve Laycock in the fourth end, Laycock having hammer.
Jones open with the corner guard here. Or sorry, center guard, excuse me. Grandy going for the corner guard, down by 2, not unexpected.
Absolutely. I think you'll see the start of this end play out pretty standard with Jennifer drawing around, although this one has quite a bit of curling to do. If this stays in... Oh, never mind. It just ended up as a guard, actually. They might have called that off once they realized it was a little bit light. So Clancy will now have the opportunity to utilize that corner guard that she just threw. With how much these are curling, you would almost like to overbury this and show a piece on the outside of the guard. Make it very difficult for Jen to try and follow her down and get it moving.
Team Grandy calling this behind their corner guard.
Needs to come
In what
off the
situation? Sorry, Matt. In what situation would you play that double guard? They are down 2 right now. We're halfway through the game. Is it? They're not too desperate yet.
It's definitely something that they could have played now. I wouldn't have been surprised to see them try to go for it, especially with those center guards or those 2 rocks by Jones maybe not ending up in the optimal position. I thought they could have taken the opportunity to throw up that second corner guard and probably have a chance to use it later, but it's a bit of personal preference in some ways. If you make that draw really good, which I think they did there, kind of like I said, show a little piece on the outside. Now, ended up doing it off a bit of a tick, but put that rock in a really good spot. And with the 5 rock guard rule, obviously, Jen can't take out that guard yet. So you forced Jen to now play around the center, those suboptimal guards that she's had, and now she slips a little bit deep, so you're going to have some opportunities here. Of course, Jen's still shot, but with that rock so far back, definitely an opportunity, Clancy, here to set something up for herself.
Another little miscue on the draw for Team Jennifer Jones. That was Mackenzie Zacharias slipping that draw deep.
And a little bit of a surprise here. Playing around that corner guard, of course, with that first rock or the first come around over curling a little bit, you do have some space. You could wrap a second rock around here. The only issue with that is you are grouping your stones into one place on the sheet, and obviously this team out of Manitoba, very strong hitters. I've seen them come up through the ranks at the Junior Nationals and the World Juniors, and really one of the very good aspects of the game was their hitting ability. So grouping their stones a little bit over here will give them the opportunity to play a run back and possibly get rid of all of those red stones if you can hit it in a good spot.
Well, they do wrap it around just in the spot where you're talking about. Jen Jones now recognizing this corner guard is going to cause her problems. Maybe trying to run it in and get some of those reds moving.
Absolutely, and one of the great things about it is you do end up hitting it maybe a little bit on the center line side, so you could actually roll to another center guard for yourself even if you don't make the run back. Definitely over curling a little bit though.
They'll roll right through the rings. Does take the guard off.
Right, and this is one of the other issues or problems that you might have to face if you drew around that corner guard again. Even though they don't make the run back, that's such an easy double over there. It's sort of difficult to ignore it. And, if you keep throwing up that corner guard, eventually Jen's just going to ignore you and play a draw around the center. So they're actually going to take a little bit of a timeout here and discuss it as a team what they want to do. They could obviously draw around the center, but maybe an argument could be made that it's a little bit early. Jen will make that double on the left-hand side of the sheet. And then you could sink another one around the center, but then it's getting sort of clogged up, and if Jen can come up with a really good shot, she might get you into a bit of trouble.
if you had a coach, a timeout could be allowed and the coach could come out. Otherwise, they're not on a time clock, so don't have to worry about time specifically. What would you do here, Matt?
You know, if it was me, second rock, you kind of drew around that corner for a reason. I think you could get away with throwing the corner guard at least one more time. I think it's just maybe one rock too early to go around the center. Looks like that's what they've decided to do. You throw up the corner guard. If you can make it really good, you're going to force Jen to try and play that run back one more time. The chance is there that she'll make it, but if you can make it very difficult, you can sort of delay and waste one more shot, because as soon as you go around the center, you're going to give the Jones team, if they make a good shot, they can sort of cut everything down. So just make them waste at least one more stone. That's one fewer opportunity for them to make something good to cut you down.
Well, that was my first instinct as well, and I'm glad that's being validated by the stats man. So I'm feeling a little bit better about myself after failing on the geometry lesson last night.
This is a very precise shot, though. You need to get the angle right here. This one, angle's going to look good, but maybe slipping a little bit deeper than they would have liked it to.
The double is certainly on. I don't think there's a triple there.
You'd have to hit it pretty thin. I think if you can get it over the top of that second red rock in the 12-foot, maybe.
Maybe.
But there's always the chance that that red rock on the tee line ends up being redirected back into the blue at the back of the rings anyways. So probably safer just to try and play it over the top. Make sure you make a double. Even if you end up jamming it, there's the opportunity to roll your shooter into somewhere good in the ring. So definitely have a couple options here depending on what they get out of the hands of Carly Burgess.
Yeah, if you can ever roll behind your two blue stones, even if you don't make a double, even if you just get one red stone out, that really does improve your situation a lot, because Clancy Grandy will have to find a way to remove your blue stones to make her red stones count. We do have an update on the Laycock-Yanagisawa game. 3-3 tie after 4. Team from Karuizawa, Japan, with last rock in the 5th.
Curly Burgess herself, a two-time World Junior Champion, I believe. Once with Mackenzie Zacharias and another time with Mary Fay. Oh, sorry, I think I'm missing one there. I believe she was also on the Caitlin Jones rink as well. So
out of Nova Scotia.
Yes, so a 3-time World Junior Champion herself. Plenty of experience, although here maybe just over-curling, a little bit under-curling. You could have made it either way, but just caught in the middle, stuffs it, leaves. I believe Jennifer is still shot, although Clancy's sitting second and third now with the opportunity to remove that blue stone and sit 3.
Yeah, again, that over curl has been a theme of the last couple of games for the Jones team when they're making those softer weight hits.
Sweepers seem to like this one. Not getting too far off. Going to make the hit and roll away slightly, and I think that's the smart way to play it. You can see the angle of that top blue-red combination will likely come back and make some kind of a double, but if you ended up trying to hit nose there or even rolled in under to avoid giving that double, you likely give Jennifer the opportunity to follow you down and freeze to it, which is exactly what I was saying. If they make that shot really well, it sort of cuts down all of the red stones. So likely the best option was to concede, giving them the opportunity for this double. If they don't make it, obviously you're happy if you're the Grandy squad, but even if they do make it, you'll likely still be shot. You can come around and sit 2 and go for your score of 2 that way.
Blue onto red. Won't clip the other red at the back, so it is Grandy still sitting shot in second.
Somehow found a hole that I didn't think was there. That was really tight. But again,
Those are the
even
holes
with that,
I've always found in my curling career. I swear I would have a few more world championships if I didn't do that.
well, we've all been there before, but the one good thing about it is it does leave that blue stone in a good spot. If you ever had to run that back, it's probably unlikely that they can find that hole twice, but Clancy going to try and put the pressure on now, sink one around the center guard. I think best case scenario might be just to be full 8-foot. I think if you slip into the 4-foot, you may see Jennifer at some point this end try to follow her down and freeze onto it to cut down the other 2 red stones.
Redstone shot in second, just biting the 8. Do you want this to be... Well, this is going to go way too deep, I think. I was wondering where you want to place it, whether you just want to bite the top 8 or actually be in the top 4, but back 8 wasn't where they were going for.
Absolutely. I think the best place in that would have just been to sort of bite 8-foot. If you're just top 8, that's fine. But, of course, that being sort of a big miss by Kayla McMillan. You are still sitting 3, but by going so deep, not only giving Jen the opportunity to follow you down and freeze to it, but by going right beside that other red rock, gives Jen a lot of space to do so. She can freeze to either of those stones. She might be able to bump one a little bit and still sort of have a wall set up back there for her. So really sort of giving the opportunity. Now she still has to make the shot, but gives the opportunity to Jen to sort of take the everything you've set up away from you. Seem to like the weight on this one. Line, if it gets by the blue, is good. Very good. And looking at it now, it looks to be very difficult for Clancy to bring those other red stones back into play. She'll likely have to start all over again here. Maybe play some kind of freeze. You can maybe tap it a little bit, sacrifice one of your reds to have a chance to maybe bring the other ones in. But again, Jen, you give her the opportunity, she's going to make you pay most of the time. Discussion here now by the Grandy team, trying to figure out what the best way to play this is. Looks like they're sort of debating between a couple shots. They've talked about the freeze to the blue. They've talked about possibly tapping those stones back to open it up, but looks like the final decision was just made by Clancy, probably just drawing to the top of the button. I think that's the safe call. You sort of have to take a step back and realize, hey, you've let that opportunity slip away. Those other red rocks are likely not going to have the opportunity to come in to score. So just try and do the best shot that you can to give yourself the opportunity for 2. And I think if you put it top 4, you put it top button, even if Jen freezes to it, you'll probably have some way to get in there for your second point without giving Jen the opportunity to take everything away from you, and then you're trying to make a shot just to score.
Yeah, I think the trouble with trying to tap the blue and unlock it is if you're ever a little bit heavy or a little bit wide, your shooter's going to roll away, and Jen can put it block in a really good spot that'll make it very, very difficult for you to even score. This way, you're getting in there first. You still have a chance to set up the skips deuce here. Put this one in a good spot. Top of the 4.
Sweepers need to go, though. It just rubs off the side of the guard, sort of straightens out the rock, but it just doesn't have the weight to get far enough. Probably just light the whole way. I think if she had that 2 or 3 feet more than she needed, she probably gets by that guard to a really good spot, but as it is, it's not the worst scenario I've ever seen. You do always have the ability to tap that redstone back. Maybe the chance to run something in to get rid of that blue rock at the back of the forefoot, but as I look at it more and more, I'm not really seeing it. So still ended up in a good enough spot that Clancy will always have the option to tap it into the forefoot for her score of 1 if Jen doesn't just decide to guard it.
Thanks to the Curling Stadium crew for this good camera work. You can see from the overhead, yeah, that blue rock, it's hard to see a scenario where the Clancy Grandy team can get rid of it. So what's the best play now for Jen Jones? I think they talked about, or at least motioned very briefly, maybe just draw around the in-turn side, clockwise side, get to the side of the forefoot. If you do that, though, you do leave Clancy Grandy a tap up of her red that she just left in the top 12 for her single point.
Absolutely, and looking at it, to play that in-turn draw, you'd have to go out so wide to a spot that, as I think about it, even from most of the games I've been watching, I don't think I've seen somebody have to go that far for a draw quite yet, so it would be a little bit of a guess, and even if you make it really good, yes, you're just leaving this open tap for Clancy. So I think this is, once again, just the smarter call by Jen. It's easier for you. You know this spot a lot better. Just throw up the guard and let Clancy try and go out wide there to try and make that draw if she needs to. Why would you take on the tougher shot needing to guess a spot that you've never been in before when you can make your opponent do that? And if they don't guess correctly, you get your steal of 1.
So just trying to protect against the raise that Grandy will have on that red stone. So really a line shot. Distance doesn't matter all too much, as long as you're in front of that red, not too close to the red either, so you don't line it up. Nice throw. So now it has to be a double tap if Grandy wants to play that. Very tough, again, that in-turn draw, very tough to catch enough of the forefoot to get shot stone. You need to be more than half in the 4. It is there, but again, Matt, you talked about it. It's in a spot that doesn't get played very often. It's going to be tricky and a bit of a guess. So maybe this double tap is the easier shot. You think they'll ever try to take a run with weight at this and see if they can somehow squeeze that blue one far enough out of the rings to score multiples?
I don't really see it. I think the angle is there, like you could run that redstone back and hit the blue thin enough, but likely in all scenarios, that blue at the back 4 is going to take out the red that's right behind it. Your shooter would likely roll off and probably take out the other red too, so it would be a lot of work to go through to maybe just end up with a single anyways. This double tap, though, is a bit concerning because you don't need to be too far off. If you're just a little bit on the inside, you're tapping it back towards that other blue, and you don't need to move that too far to give them a steal of 2 either. So obviously this shot very difficult, but needing to be even that much more precise to make this tap into the forefoot to score your single point.
Well, Clancy Grandy trailing by 2 here in the 5th end. Final stone facing 1. Looks like they're playing the double tap to score 1. It is over curling a little on them. It does tap it into the other blue. but I think it's okay. They don't do any more damage. It's just one for Jen Jones, another steal, and it's 4-1 after 5. We're going to come back to the 6 after this break.
Imagine a place with endless possibilities. Imagine a place where people come together to build families, businesses, and communities. Imagine a place where small-town values and progressive qualities are in perfect harmony. Imagine a place rich with so much vitality. Imagine your future in Martensville.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
We're back now for the 6th end. Team Jones up 4-1 over Clancy Grandy. As mentioned, Jones a win and they're into the playoffs, a loss and they're out. And right now they've got 1 foot into the playoff door, but they still got to finish things off. Matt Hall, what do you think? What does Jen do here? Go into the rings? Well, Jen does go into the rings on her first, leading by 3.
My apologies there, Jason. I was talking for like a minute and a half with my mic muted. But okay,
Rookie mistake, Matt. But Jen goes into the rings. I answered my own question.
Absolutely. So I think if you're Clancy Grandy and you're trying to figure out what's your path to victory here, so you're down 3 points with 3 ends to go. So if you play the standard strategy of what you're trying to do, you score 2 with the hammer, you force Jones in 7, you score 2 more. That's going to get you a tie game, and you're going to have to steal the extra. So it's certainly something that's doable. They could stick with that, but of course at some point you'd like to get that chance for 3 in order to try and get the win without having to steal the extra. Of course, we know at this highest level, stealing against these top teams is extremely difficult. So I think Clancy's probably going to try to push the envelope a little bit, set up some corner guards, maybe play some more setup shots around the side and ignore some Jennifer Stones. And so because of that, to answer your question, I think Jones is able to play into the rings. In fact, she does so twice here. And I think we'll probably just see Clancy throw up another corner guard. Then you can guard it if you're Jen. And you can sort of sit back a little bit, continue to make peels, and really force Clancy to show what is she going to do to try and get herself back into this game. If you make all 8 of your shots during the next 3 ends, you don't necessarily have to go crazy on the strategy to put yourself into a winning position. You already have control of this game. Let Clancy sort of push the envelope, and if she ever slips, then you're going to have your opportunity then to put the hammer down.
Matt, you were telegraphing perhaps another corner guard, but Clancy playing the same strategy as she did on the last end, which is come around her corner guard with that second stone.
Yeah, possibly just, it is a little bit surprising. Of course, there's nothing quote unquote overtly wrong with going around the corner in that situation. We did see them do that last end as well. And it did end up setting up something well for them. So maybe they just liked what they saw last end. It was sort of just one deep draw that sort of lost everything for them. So they might have liked what they've seen. They're going to try and do the same strategy, or this might just be how they generally play this situation. It could have been a conversation that this team has had that they've decided when they find themselves down, this is how they want to play it out. There's nothing necessarily right or wrong with going in or going up the other corner, as long as everybody buys in and you know as a team exactly what your game plan is. And here, Jennifer's team slipping in once again. I don't think they would have wanted the third stone in, so possibly a chance here for Clancy to make a nice hit and roll. You'll see Jen walk up to try and play the run back.
Yeah, you bring up really good points. I mean, we talk about some teams maybe wanting to play the second corner guard. Other teams maybe just happy with one guard, and every team's statistics are going to be individualized too. Every team has some strengths and weaknesses, and if you can look at your own team's strengths and weaknesses, that might dictate how you might play a certain situation.
Well, this one needs to do some curling. It should stick around.
Almost out.
I think it spun back, right? Yeah, I think it made that little bit of an extra turn and spun back at the end to sit for stone, although it doesn't really change much for Jen. I think you'll just see her take on the straight peel, try to roll towards the center line, and if you can ever hit it perfect, you could also take out that rock that just stuck around at the side.
Yeah, kind of play this peel and try to slash it into the one that's just nibbling right now.
Exactly, yes. Looks like that's what the call is. And what's really good about that is not that I think you need to stick around, but you could always sort of get away with maybe rolling to the center line or possibly even rolling into the house on the other side of the rings, and just that extra rock sticking around could put, if you roll it to a really good spot, could put some more pressure on the Grandy team. Hitting that a little bit thin, ends up also touching one of her own stones in the rings, pushes it to the back of the 12, not far enough to get it past where the other rock is. So, but getting it in a position where it is a pretty straightforward double off of the other blue now. So I think once again, you'll just see Clancy throw up this guard for a little while and try to waste Jennifer's attempts, and hopefully if she never makes a double, you'll have the opportunity to play a double for yourself to sit 3.
Tight guard goes up. It does guard the side where a double was possible, so I think that's more or less where they wanted it.
Yeah, it does expose a little bit of that red on the center line side. So you might see Jen attempt to make a play on the rock in the rings, and it looks like they're going to try and do that. One of the good things with this is if you're very careful about your weight choice, you stick to something where if you end up wrecking on the guard or you end up touching the guard on the way by, you still stick around in the ring. So generally we're looking at sort of a hack weight hit. You'd love to get by the guard and remove that red stone from play that's in the rings. But if you ever hit a quarter rock on the guard, you could still spin into the 4-foot, and it's just another rock that Clancy will eventually have to deal with. Now, looks like they're throwing maybe a little bit more weight than hack, but we'll see if the sweepers can hold it here. Definitely need to go to get it by the guard.
Worked hard to get it by, and great sweep.
Absolutely, and actually get enough of that stone in the rings to stick around. Really had to play that tight to the guard, but they were able to hold it. And now Clancy's gonna, with Jones sitting 3, Clancy's gonna have to deal with these stones in the rings at some point. Looks like she's discussing doing it now with Kayla McMillan's first stone.
And she can make a double here.
Absolutely. Definitely, if you hit it on the nose, I'm not sure if you try and roll behind the corner if you'll make the double. And even if you do roll around the corner, you'll probably be grouping your red stones. So if you hit this a little bit on the center line, just make the double. And hopefully you have the opportunity to make some kind of a double later where you can bring that red stone in off the side into play.
Yeah, so for now, just try not to group your own red stones, and maybe you'll get a chance to make a double on the blue stones later on. Clip the one at the back of the rings and make your nibbler count on the side.
Oh, actually, with this kind of ice, though, it looks like they might be playing some kind of a tap. So instead of removing these rocks, likely, in some ways, you might be abandoning that stone at the side of the rings of getting that into play. But if you can come down and just tap this blue stone about a foot and stay on the nose, you can sort of create a makeshift pocket for yourself where Jennifer won't be able to remove it.
Third stones here for Team Grandy. That rock pick match?
It's difficult to say. I mean, watching the replay here, they kind of looked like they were on it fairly early. Doesn't really sound like they necessarily panicked at all. It might have taken a slight turn and just lost a little bit of weight, but certainly not what they were expecting. And with that kind of ice, that's a long way to over curl. It looked like the ice came down, so possible it might have just made a slight turn, and as it got extra curl, just lost the weight. So a bit unfortunate if you're the Grandy squad for sure. Regardless, now the opportunity for Carly Burgess to hit and sit 4, and then I think you're really sort of scrambling to try and find some way to set up a deuce for yourself. Make no mistake, as we said, really the path to having a chance here is to at least score 2 with your next 2 hammers if you're Clancy. If you're not able to do that, you're going to have to pull a couple steals out of the hat, and that's not easy to do against Jennifer Jones.
They are still tapping this back, I believe, with the ice being where it is.
Yeah, looks like the broom's in the same spot, so that last one must have grabbed something or done something they didn't expect it to. So gonna take another shot at the same call, and if they could ever tap this, it'll be very difficult for Jen to remove. So definitely an opportunity to score multiple that way. This may be a little bit heavy though.
Taps the blue one back, rolls on top of the other blue, but I think there's a way to just chip this out. Even if you jam it off the blue, it should squirt sideways and out the side.
Absolutely. Fairly straightforward for Jennifer. Even, especially with that red corner guard, it's going to be very difficult to hit this red in a spot that at least won't get it far enough to sit still 3, but fairly straightforward as well, just to get rid of it. Yes, you're probably losing your blue stone behind it, but I think that's a good thing if you're Jennifer. Just sort of, you'll be able to sit 3 blue stones all separated, all wide open. It'll be very tough situation for Clancy to try and generate a deuce. shot there by Jennifer Jones. Does possibly leave the opportunity for a freeze if Clancy wanted to take it on. We certainly saw her make a shot just like that in the fourth end to sort of save Jennifer from being able to score a couple. Though they might be looking at, are these all lined up that you can get most of the Blues moving if you hit this in the right spot? Might be. You hit this rock, blue rock at the top of the 8-foot, just slightly off away from the center line side. You might be, I don't see you making the quad to get them all out, but I think if you hit this in the right spot, you could probably get the 3 blue stones, the one on the center line, back 8 and back 12 moving.
Yeah, triple might be there. Quad looks a little bit tough. Well, the triple isn't easy either, but with this end shaping up the way it is, this might be your only chance of finding a way to score 2, is to try to get 3 out of there and maybe make that red nibbler come into play.
Absolutely. There's no easy freeze anywhere that you could possibly use to get your second point, so your only other option would be to get rid of all these blues, and this is the only way to do it.
Big weight here. Looks fairly close, actually. Blue. The middle one jams.
I think just maybe overcurled just a bit. If you hit that first one, instead of jamming that middle rock, if you jam the one that you hit, I think it's a lot closer to possibly making it, but fortunately just overcurls a hair, so if Jennifer can make this hit and stick around somewhere in the rings, it's likely that she'll be able to get a force and take a 2-point lead with the hammer with 2 ends remaining.
That could even make it quite difficult for Team Grandy to score if she can roll a little bit to the right towards the center line in front of her own stone. Just be careful though, can't overcurl and jam it on the blue, but there's a lot of space to push it out the side. Just make sure you hit it on the high side. Even nose will do it. Definitely hitting the high side. Well, if this rolls out, does Grandy take on this double? It's pretty thin.
I think
you have to, right, Matt? With the
yeah,
scoreline.
I mean, it's not the prettiest shot for 2 that you would have liked to have, but if there's something reasonable, and I think this is that she'll be fairly close, I think you kind of have to take it on. 1 is just not enough. If you only get 1 point, you're looking at either forcing and having to take 3 just to tie the game, or going steal, and having to steal the extra. So if there's an opportunity for 2, that's not completely crazy. I think you have to take it on, and this is very thin, but it is there.
Yeah, the angle or the thinness of this is reminiscent of that incredible shot that Al Hackner made in the Brier in the 80s against Pat Ryan. Was in a different spot on the ice, but the angle looks similar.
Yeah, it's very close. You're probably trying to hit just a quarter stone, maybe a thin quarter, to just redirect almost onto that backstone. And the problem is, even if you make it, you don't have a lot of space to roll with the shooter. You could easily just spin right out of the rings, even if you make the double.
The final stone, down by 3. Grandy attempting a very difficult thin double to score 2. There's the contact. It rolls to the over the top, I think. So it is 1 more for Team Jennifer Jones. They take a 5-1 lead, 2 ends to go.
Saskatchewan, you know SaskTel, because we're everywhere. Because being everywhere keeps us connected to you. You are what matters most. With SaskTel sponsorships, we get to be a part of your community. From the dance competitions, to the rodeos, to helping discover and embrace technology across the province, we're here with you, and we're here for you. It's easy to get started. All you need to do is apply. Every year, SaskTel contributes nearly $3 million to approximately 1,000 nonprofits, charities, associations, and events in more than 200 communities across Saskatchewan. So keep dancing, keep laughing, keep discovering, and we'll be there to help, to lend a hand, and join in the fun. SaskTel cares. Always has, always will, because we are dedicated to our home. To apply for sponsorship, visit sastel.com/sponsorships.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
We're back for the seventh end here in Martensville's final draw of the preliminary round. Playoff picture becoming a little bit more clear as these games progress. Jennifer Jones up 5-1. She needs to win to get in. A loss and she's out. Well, she's got now maybe 1.5 feet through that door. On the other game, Chelsea Carey, she also needs to win to get in, but trailing Lindsay Gim by a score of 3-1. Matt Hall with me. And for all the viewers who are enjoying our coverage here in Martensville, Curling Stadium is going to be in the Alberta Series once again next weekend in Leduc, the second leg of that series. We were there last week where Aaron Schlazinski took the victory over Karsten Sturme. Once again, streaming all the games, all the sheets.
And I actually just took a look over at the other stream for the other women's game, and that game has actually progressed. It's now 5-3 for Gim over Carey. So if you're a Daniela Jentsch fan, you're probably pretty happy with how that game is shaping up so far, but still 2 ends to play. Over on the men's side, Yannick Schwaller opens up a 4-2 lead over Cody Hartung in the 8th end of play. And over on the other men's game, a complete mess in the rings. Yana Gasawa with a 4-3 lead over Laycock, although Laycock with the hammer and maybe looking at something interesting setting up there. So that's another game. You can watch all 4 games here on the Curling Zone YouTube channels. You can switch back and forth as much as you like.
And in our game, the feature sheet, Jones and Grandy. If you're joining us on CBC Sports Online, thanks for tuning in there as well. Yeah, Daniela Jentsch fans maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable now with that scoreline. Chelsea Carey trailing. That's what Daniela Jentsch needs to get in, is a loss from either Team Carey or Team Jones. Christy Watling, her chances of making the playoffs perhaps starting to slip away as Jen Jones continues to extend the lead here in this game. She needs both Carey and Jones to lose to get in.
Yeah, and if you're Jennifer Jones here with this now 4-point lead going into the 7th end, you really don't have to do anything all that fancy. If you make 16 shots, almost regardless of what you call, you're probably going to win this game. So keep your shot simple. As you see here, she draws 2 into the rings, throws up a nice tight guard, and now you'll likely just see her walk up and start peeling corners as much as she can. It's going to come up to Clancy to make some perfect freezes, get some good angles, and maybe have the chance for a multiple score at the end of the end.
Matt, do you have any idea how likely it is for a team trailing by 4 with 2 to go to actually come back and win a game?
I do. I was actually just happened to be glancing over at the numbers not that long ago. So depending on the level, generally for women between the top teams to say the top 30 teams in the world, you're looking at anywhere between probably 7% and 3%, depending on who's playing. So really got their backs against the wall, but it's not like it hasn't been done before either.
All right, so not impossible. For me, maybe impossible, but for these teams have a little bit of a chance. 3% is better than 0% for sure.
Absolutely, but I think it's happened before, but you're definitely going to need Jen to sort of play into it as well. Like I said, with this kind of lead, I think if they just make 16 shots, just make some open peels, just basically see red, hit red, take out a bunch of stones, and you're probably going to walk away with this victory. They're going to need a couple misses out of the Jones squad in order to be able to pull off a comeback.
So would you say the comeback is less likely at the highest levels, and if you start looking down further in the world rankings, say at the, teams at the world ranking 100 to 150, that comeback opportunity actually might be a little bit higher?
Absolutely, for sure. So at the top level with the women's in this situation, we're looking at around that 3% range. And when I say top, I usually mean like top 20 women's teams in the world, which I think both of these teams are either in or very close to. So, and as you go down to maybe the top 100, that percentage goes up to about 7. And if you sort of take everyone into account, that percentage goes up to around like 8 or 9 at the most. So definitely as you move down the rankings, it becomes more likely to make a comeback simply because you need the other team to have some misses. So obviously when you're lower in the ranking, the lower skilled teams are going to have those misses and allow their opponents the opportunity to possibly come back.
So for all those rec league curlers watching, don't give up if you're down by 4 with 2 to go. You actually have a better chance to come back.
I was wondering where you were going with that line of questioning. I thought you had a plan in place, and you did.
I'm never shaking hands ever again, Matt.
No, never resign. You never know what can happen. Speaking here of what can happen, though, already being forced into some very tough shots, the Grandy team are. Looks like they're going to try and make maybe a bit of a short run back or a tap here. Try and stay buried and rearrange these blue stones to something that's a little bit better for you. Or possibly are they playing a split?
I think they've ended up with the split, but couldn't get the second one into the rings.
So I think we'll see Jennifer just hit the open stone. Keep this simple, sit 3 or 4. Probably you'd like to maybe just nose it. I think rolling towards the center, rolling to the center is fine as long as you push one of those blue ones out of the way. What you don't want to do is sort of roll 2 rocks over and leave sort of a pocket that Clancy can just lock a rock down into that'll take a while for Jennifer to remove.
I just had a quick glance across at the other game. It looks like Team Hartung has extended their hand and shook against Team Schwaller. So that would put Schwaller at 4-1. Already guaranteed a spot in playoff, but they're trying to vie for one of the higher seeds. Get a bye right into the semifinal. Top 3 teams on the men's side get to the semis. Number 4 and 5 will play in, we'll call it the quarterfinal match to get into the semis.
Absolutely. So a 4-2 final there for Yannick Schwaller as they didn't finish the final end.
Well, the Grandy team, they have to rearrange some of the granite here in front. There's too many Jones stones sitting near the top of the rings, trying to play a hit and roll behind the corners here.
I think so for sure. You'd like to delay hitting as much as you can, but with blue starting to pile up, you eventually have to do something. And she does make a very good hit and roll behind. Maybe leaves a little bit exposed, but likely Jen will need to resort to some kind of run back double to remove that. And now that you've sort of moved those blues around and given yourself a little bit more room to work with, you maybe have the opportunity to draw around that blue stone on the other side of the rings, maybe freeze to the back one and generate a multiple score that way. Again, still plenty of work to do, but maybe some kind of silver lining showing up now.
That rock over curls, runs into the other red guard, pushes one red guard into the rings. The other one kind of almost freezes to the back of the blue stone there. Not a great result for Team Jones. Maybe giving Clancy Grandy a little bit of hope here in this seventh end.
Absolutely. I think this is exactly the kind of thing you're waiting for if you're Clancy. Like I said, it's going to take some help from the other team if you want to end up winning this. So definitely a big miscue there to not really remove any. Well, you removed the one guard, but not the one you sort of wanted to see go. So do still have to be careful here. I don't really see an easy way to avoid giving up a double. So you'll probably hit one of the blue stones. Jen will have some chances at a double, and if she ever misses them both, then you might have the chance at a 3 spot. So game on a little bit here.
Quick glance over on the men's side. Steve Laycock leading Yanasugawa 6-4. They're in the 7th. The Japanese team, they have hammer in the 7th. I haven't mentioned this before, but I think it's worth doing. The Japanese games, there is actually Japanese commentary available on those games for all those fans in Japan. And if you happen to be in Japan and watching our game, konnichiwa.
I think that's just a fantastic thing, what we're seeing nowadays with being able to watch every sheet, having commentary in multiple languages. It's just great for growing the sport. And I mean, every other sport, in baseball, I'm a big baseball fan. I can get MLB Network. I can watch pretty much every game that I want to watch. With the odd one, maybe some promotional thing is a little bit different, but curling's one of those sports that for a long time you couldn't watch anything. All you could really do was watch the online scores, and you'd have to wait 20 minutes between checking to see what happened in the next end. And now being able to tune in, not only seeing a feature sheet, but being able to see all 4 makes it that much easier, I think, to be interested in the sport. You get to see a lot of these teams that you don't necessarily see a lot of times in the past if all you watched were maybe the Scotties or the Brier or the Slams.
Well, Team Grandy making a play on this blue stone. Unfortunately, they pick out their own red stone at the back. Looks like it might be Grandy sitting 1 on the left side of the screen as you see it from the thrower's perspective. Second shot, I believe, is that Jones stone in the back of the 8-foot.
I actually see a question here in our bit of a missed opportunity there to remove their own. See a bit of a question in our online chat here. Someone asking, where does Team Grandy fall in the world rankings? They're currently at the moment 34th in the world curling rankings, whereas Jennifer Jones sits 10th. Looking back
And Matt,
at
how are those world rankings determined? How do you figure out where a team is ranked, or how do the stats people figure out where a team is ranked?
So generally how this works is every team, when you register for an event, depending on where you are in the rankings, you provide some sort of strength of field to the event. So for a team that's really strong, might offer a strength of maybe 0.6 or 0.7 or something like that. And then you add up all the strength from all the different teams that's registered, and that gives you your strength of field multiplier. So for this event, it's 5.0, which is quite high. We have some very good teams in this event. And that strength of field multiplier essentially determines how many points are given out for the event. So winning an event won't get you the same number of points from event to event. It's all about how strong the field is, how difficult it is to win it. If there's lots of very high-ranked teams in the standings, then it's going to be more difficult to win that event, and you're going to get more points if you do well in it. So the actual distinct math is a little bit dense, so I won't go into that, but that's generally the idea. So a lot of these teams, especially early, are looking to go to events with other top teams so that they can earn lots of points, get themselves really close to that 15 to 20th in the world threshold that usually makes it into the Grand Slams.
Well, they were trying to play a nose hit. They get very fortunate. It overcurls. It might have even grabbed a little bit. I saw Clancy Grandy look on the ice for a moment, but it catches on that blue on the other side, so they still sit 2 after this situation. And thank you, Matt, for that explanation and keeping it simple as possible. I even could follow that.
Hey, look, I understand math isn't for everyone. I'm not here to put anyone to sleep. I just get the information across and then get right back to the curling.
Well, you haven't thrown out an equation yet, which is the key, right?
There's no work to be done. You can just listen to me talk.
Well, Jen Jones has a chance to make the double here.
Absolutely. It is a little difficult. A fair bit of space between them, but anywhere pretty close to nose will definitely be close to making it.
Yeah, about 10 feet apart, I'd say. This rock tracking a little bit on the wide side. She'll get the top one to go, rolls out of the rings. So, opportunity for Team Grandy to draw for 2 points here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the way this was looking, 3 was certainly a possibility partway through the end, but Jennifer just being able to get enough throughout the rest to hold them to the 2, and so in all likelihood, she'll be going to the 8th end with a 2-point lead and the hammer. Very good opportunity for them. Remember, they are fighting for their lives here. They need to win this game to move on into the playoffs. So plenty of pressure, and for what it's worth, all credit where it's due. They've exceeded, or they've performed very well this game.
Yeah, I think worked out some of the kinks that cost them the last 2 games. They lost those in a very close affair, but this game trending a little better, and oh no, Clancy Grandy, this one isn't even close. It is just a single for Team Grandy. They're having a look, seeing if they want to continue, and they decide they've had enough. So it is 1 for Team Grandy in the 7th. They decide to shake hands. Both those teams are going to make it into the playoff round. Put it in the record books. It's 5-2. Jennifer Jones, she's off to the playoffs as well. Matt, what did you think about this game?
You know, I think it's one that I really don't think it'll take a whole lot for Clancy to just sort of shake off. It's one of those games where it seemed like no matter what you did, nothing kind of went your way. There were a couple grabs, but honestly, they were just outplayed today. It was a fantastic game by Jennifer Jones and her team, and I think Clancy can hold her head high. She still has a 4-1 record. Unclear now if she'll get that bye to the semis, but I think it'll be a very short debrief after, one they can just sort of put behind them and forget about, and they are still in the playoffs tomorrow.
And I just had a look over at the Chelsea Kerry game. They were down by 2, playing the 7th with Last Rock, and Chelsea just drew in for 3. They're going to take a 1-point lead heading into 8. For Chelsea Kerry fans, that's good news. That's the first time they've led this game. They also need a win to get in. So if you're not on that stream right now, go to YouTube or Curling Zone, click on that game, and watch the 8th then unfold. Well, Matt, it's great to have you on this game. We have playoffs tomorrow after the dust settles. One more end to go in those key matchups. On behalf of Curling Stadium and the entire Curling Stadium crew, Jerry, Rory, and James, join us again tomorrow. We're going to have quarterfinals, semifinals, championship finals at 9 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 4 p.m. That's Saskatchewan time at 2 hours if you're in the Eastern time zone. My name is Jason Chang. Until tomorrow, have a great night.
Saskatchewan, you know SaskTel because we're everywhere. Because being everywhere keeps us connected to you. You are what matters most. With SaskTel sponsorships, we get to be a part of your community. From the dance competitions, to the rodeos, to helping discover and embrace technology across the province, we're here with you and we're here for you. It's easy to get started. All you need to do is apply. Every year, SaskTel contributes nearly $3 million to approximately 1,000 nonprofits, charities, associations, and events in more than 200 communities across Saskatchewan. So keep dancing, keep laughing, keep discovering, and we'll be there to help, to lend a hand, and join in the fun. SaskTel cares. Always has, always will, because we are dedicated to our home. To apply for sponsorship, visit sastel.com/sponsorships.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.